Welcome to the Lean Solutions Podcast. This is the podcast that adds value to leaders by helping you improve performance using process improvement solutions with bottom line results. My name is Patrick Adams, and this season I'll be joined by three other amazing hosts, including Catherine McDonald from Ireland, Andy Olrich from Australia, and Shane Doffenbaugh from the United States. Join us as we bring you guests and experiences of lean practitioners from all over the world. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Lean Solutions Podcast, led by your hosts, Andy Olrich and myself, Patrick Adams. How's it going, Andy?
G'day, mate. Going well, thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Enjoying a beautiful day here in the state of Michigan. I know it's bright and early in Australia, 5 a.m., right? I don't know how many... You don't drink coffee, do you?
No, I drink tea, though. So,
Tea.
yeah, one's gone down this morning already. So, all good. It's actually quite warm here, too. So, we're coming into summer. Here we go.
Nice. Well, I'm excited for our topic today, Andy, and from our guests that will be joining us. I think we're going to have a really, really great conversation. We're going to be talking about data intelligence for effective lean transformation. And so this will be a little different topic than what we have talked about before, but so relevant in the work that most of our listeners are doing today. So, we think about just the evolution of lean implementation in recent years. So much is driven by technologies like robotics, automation, AI, right? There's just so many things that are happening that are now starting to drive decision-making that we've never really had access to in the past. So, the question begs is, are these things a benefit to us? Are they not? Or, these are the types of questions that I hear. Like, are we getting too far down that road? Is lean still relevant because of all of the advancements in technology? So that's why I'm super excited about this conversation. We're joined by Hessam Vali, and he has got a wealth of knowledge on this topic. So Andy, can you just give us a quick introduction to Hessam?
Absolutely, love to. Yeah, really excited too about the topic, and it's very, very much spoken about down here as well as around digitization and AI and all those things. So Hessam is the co-founder and managing director of Optegrity Solutions and Techam Solutions, and he's got extensive experience in lean manufacturing, operational excellence, and supply chain management. Holding a Ph.D. and MBA, he has excelled as a fractional COO for mid-market business, leading large-scale manufacturing operations to drive sustainable growth. He's certified as a Lean and Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Hessam is a proven leader in optimizing operations and achieving process consistency. His ability to coach and motivate teams has consistently delivered enhanced performance and bottom line savings. Welcome to the show, Hessam. How are you going?
Yeah, hey, that's awesome to be here. Thank you very much. I'm doing great. Thank you very much. How are you guys doing?
Super happy. Yeah, we're great, mate.
Doing great.
I'm really excited to have you here. Yeah.
Hessam, before, I know Andy's got a quick question for you, but before we do, can you just tell our listeners where you're calling in from? I think everyone knows where Andy's at and where I'm at. Where are you at in the world?
I'm calling from Wichita, Kansas.
All right. Nice.
The world capital of the air capital of the world. Because if you don't know, we have a lot of aviation manufacturing happening in Wichita, Kansas. So
very nice.
I didn't know that. There you go. Thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Hessam, really pleased to have you on here, and a wealth of experiences. We just touched on a few things. I'm just wondering, can you tell us a bit more about Optegrity Solutions and Techam Solutions and kind of the where that's come from and what they're all about?
Sure, definitely. Yeah, I'd glad to do that. So just a little bit of a background about myself. I've been always in manufacturing. So just recent years, we start doing some work in service industries, but my main background is coming from manufacturing and anything from working in the shop floor as a quality engineer, manufacturing engineer, lean engineer, all the way to like operations management and operation leadership role. So I've been doing it for multiple different industries, including aviation, automotive, general manufacturing. And in 2017, I basically made my mind, I want to start doing my own thing. So that was the inception of Techam Solutions. And when we started Techam, our main focus was really operational excellence. So a lot of things that it's around Obviously, we are using a lot of lean techniques and lean principles and philosophies, but tying up with some other tools and techniques like digital or business intelligence or automation or either process automation or industrial automation. So these are the services that we're providing, but with having the operations in the center of everything. So we are doing things to make sure that we are advancing our operations to meet our numbers, whatever it could be, from people side all the way to financials. So that was the inception of Techam Solutions. And as we are doing it, you know that in lean environments, there are a lot of things that we are teaching or coaching people to implement, as simple as, hey, make sure that you have a great 6S program or 5S program in place and you've sustained that, right? Or it's critical to have good visual work instructions or SOPs, then, because that's the basis of any improvements, as we always say. Or, hey, quality as number one, quality as source is critical for any lean systems because you don't want to pass quality issues. So we are helping our clients by implementing all these principles in their day-to-day operations, but sometimes everything has been done manually and it might not be an easy way to sustain those things, even if you have the right processes. But when something becomes a little bit more manual, or it's not really easy to follow the process, then you'll see that the motivation is start getting, decreasing a little bit. So Optegrity came in to address that particular problem. So it developed some digital solutions that, hey, if you get to the point that you understand what visual work instructions is, what time of study is, what level loading is, how to eliminate all those waste and unbalanced operations. Now, in order to just make that process simpler, faster, more user-friendly, hey, this is the technology that can help you that. And that was the inception of Optegrity Solutions. So it's a digital solution to do a lot of things that we're doing in a lean environment, but in a digital manner. But as I always say and talk with our clients, we're always saying that tools are the secondary things. You got to first understand what we're doing. If we get mastered in that, then tools can help you to streamline some of those processes.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because that is always the question that people ask is, well, why are we doing this, with pen and paper? Or why are we doing this on a whiteboard? Like, let's go digital. And, our recommendation is always the same. Like, let's figure it out with a whiteboard first. And then once we get really good at it and we've figured out, how everything works. And, then maybe we look at some
Absolutely.
digital solutions or whatever it may be, because so many companies, they spend a ton of money, and then they find out that it isn't what they needed, or it's an add-on that doesn't work with what they currently, whatever it might be. But one of the things that came to mind as you were talking is, kind of back to my introduction for our conversation. I do get a lot of people that ask, well, with all the advancements in technology, is lean still relevant? They're asking, well, we have new robotics, we have automation, we have AI, all these things that are now in place that were not in place, X number of years ago. So how has lean evolved given these advancements? Because I think you and I both know, and we'll answer that question of, yes, lean is still relevant, obviously, if you have waste, if you have customers, if you're looking to provide value to your customers, then lean principles are relevant. But how has it evolved given all of these different things that have now been implemented into these organizations?
Sure. That's a great question. Well, let me start this way. You already hit the nail, what you just said. But waste is not going to go anywhere, right? We as business owners or operations leaders, we always got to deal with wastes. It may move from one point to another point, but it's not going to go away. I mean, we will identify them, we reduce them, we eliminate them, but the concept is going to stay. Because as you get better in your processes, then you identify more opportunities to improve. So I want to address that question by talking about the philosophy first. So what is the philosophy of lean, right? It's two things. If you think about like the Toyota way and how Toyota has applied all the lean principles, talking about two things, talking about respecting people and understanding that people has knowledge and has expertise that you got to use, and continually improve processes. These two pillars, right? So I don't think that we get any time in the next, at least as long as I'm going to be alive, that we get to the point that we say people are not needed for businesses, or continuous improvement not needed. So I think that these two are going to be relevant all the time. So that's why, even if you start looking at some newer technologies, as a company who implement newer technologies in some of our clients, when you look at it, you see that we're talking about lean robotics now. And why is that? Why we are talking about lean robotics as a point? Because there are way too many examples that the robotic solutions has been implemented on the wrong place. I mean, again, if I want to just talk a little bit about the literature, if you think about the book, The Goal, right? The prime example was that, hey, you had a robotic X810 that is just producing parts and generating inventory where the problem is not there, right? So I think that is going to stay, it is relevant, and it's going to stay relevant, because if we do not understand where we are applying technology, the likelihood that we miss the point is going to be very high. So from philosophy perspective, it's not going to go anywhere. From adoption and implementation and execution, if we do not understand where we are applying the technology, then it's gonna be more cost than benefit, in my opinion.
Agree. And there's lived examples right here and now where we've jumped in with the automation or the robotics, for example, in the spirit of trying to accelerate and improve and reduce waste and all those things. But yeah, without that, that proof of value that you can do with the whiteboards and the traditional manual processes. But yeah, changing the thinking, it goes sideways, and it turns it, from something that's supposed to be an enabler and a help into it's constraining, and it's consistently wasteful. I saw a fantastic quote on somewhere on LinkedIn where the person was talking about someone that spoke to Motorola, and they said it was around cleaning up the process before you go in and automate or the robotics. And it was something around, if you automate your processes without first removing the waste, you'll be able to screw things up at a rate that you never thought possible. And it was just, I was like, that is such a great way to put it. And yeah, it is. There's some traditional thinkers out there, that's only to be on paper and that's it, and stay away with the digital. However, like most things, there is a time and a place for all of these new technologies where they can collaborate and help. So again, it's such a great topic that we've got on here. And when I was sort of talking about those and those challenges or perceived threats and things that come from it, like when we're talking about, we've got all this data now, or we're trying to gain more data, you're in it and you're working with clients now with robotics, automation, AI. What are you seeing as the main challenges with opportunities that you see are really valid for that particular organization and lean transformation? What are the main challenges that you are coming up against?
Sure. So let me start with some stories, right? So we work with a client. I hope they listen to this podcast, but they don't get it very personal. So we work with clients that basically the decision of where to put the technology was not very well thought of, meaning that they came up with the technology first, and then they decided how this technology is going to fix the problem before they defined the problem first. So I remember this is an example that we just recently worked with it. So we are talking with a packaging organization. They're talking about putting some automated line with some robotic solution for palletizing, right? So at the surface, you would say that that's a great solution, right? They are doing the palletizing on a regular basis, so why not? So let's put a couple of robots and we just do the palletizing robotic using technology. That's great. At the surface, it looks great. So the very first thing that we did was we did a full-blown time studies on the entire line to understand what's happening. So what we understood was the downstream part of the process, which is feeding to the robotic line, the palletizing process, had a lot of unevenness in that process. So as a result, the input to the robotic cell was not consistent. And it had multiple different reasons from the speed of the hopper machine on the beginning of the line, the way that the people are running that machine. So it resulted in any unlevel load into the robotic. So even though they spent huge amount of money on implementing that robotic cell, but it was not successful. So after 7 months, they had to remove that robotics from that cell, because even though the robotic was working, but everything coming from downstream was absolutely unpredictable. So because of that, the robotic cell didn't do anything. So one challenge that I see constantly is jumping to the solution before really understanding what the problem is. And assuming that the technology is going to fix everything from the beginning. So on the other hand, I have examples of going through the process, really understanding what the constraints or bottleneck is. After selecting that, after fixing the supplier and the customer for that operations, then we implemented some robotic solutions, and it's been absolutely successful. So I would say not really being data-driven to make the decision what the problem is, and just quickly jumping to the solution. Probably these are the common theme I see when the technology is not successful, and when it comes to the adoption.
And
Sure.
you talked about the principles remain. I mean, isn't that the problem from day dot? Isn't that why we do Lean and Lean Six Sigma? It's to stop us from jumping to solution, taking the time to step back and have a look. And yeah, it's again that it's kind of here, but yeah, the digitization piece can be something shiny and bright that people want to jump straight into again without taking the time to clean up. Thank you for that example, Patrick. I'll throw to you, mate.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that as well. And obviously we talk about the importance of allowing data to drive our decisions, in everything that we do, to try to take the emotion, take the feeling out of it, and let's let data really kind of point us in the right direction to make the proper decision. And in the past, for many companies that we've worked with, you have it's like the person who's yelling the loudest in the Kaizen event is going to get their way, or the person who complains the most, gets the floor. And again, we try to really push people towards let's get away from that, and let's allow data to drive those decisions. So just kind of bringing this back to my question, there's tons of data out there. We could pull all kinds of data, but what is the right data in a lean transformation? What type of data should we be looking at, and where do we, where I guess it probably depends. But I want to kind of ask you, in your experience, is there data that we shouldn't be looking at, or what's the right business data to look at?
Sure.
What are your thoughts?
Well, again, talking about just going back to the philosophy of Lean, we all know that Lean is a very customer-centric operating system, right? And we always talking about when we talk about customer, we always talking about internal customer and external customer. So why don't we start from that in the center? So let's look at customer, and it could be, again, and nowadays the customer is not necessarily the end user of the product, right? Even if you're talking about the shareholders, they're a customer of the business. If you're talking about the internal customer, those are the customers that we need to look at. So I always try to look at it from the customer perspective, right? Again, internal, external, and see what makes the most sense, and start in front there. And then I always try to look at it from both lagging and leading perspective, that what we need to measure today in order to prevent issues from happening in tomorrow. So from that perspective, and if you look at it from the value stream perspective, we have all these functions within the value stream. So always try to look at it and say, who is the customer for this function, and what matters the most for that function, this customer, to this particular process, and then try to define the KPIs from that perspective. So if you look at it from that perspective, always talking about some lagging KPIs, like, hey, customer is receiving what they want on time. Are we providing the highest level of quality that we could provide to them? And all the way to are we making enough money? Are we a healthy business from the financial perspective that we can continue providing service to our customers? So
Sure.
these are some leadership and executive type KPIs, but when it comes to production level or the shop floor level, what KPIs now we need to look at from that perspective? That's where technology could be very helpful, because now with the newer technologies, it gets much easier to collect data from day-to-day operations out there in the shop floor. And I think that this is what we can scale the lean and data together, and then we really uncover a lot of opportunities from that perspective.
Hey everyone, I am sorry to interrupt this episode of the Lean Solutions podcast, but I wanted to take a moment to introduce you to our company, Lean Solutions. We exist to empower and equip people for positive change. We do this through our 3 pillars, which include training and development, coaching and consulting, and talent solutions. Whether you have specific areas for improvement or you're not really sure where to start, we can build tailored solutions and provide resources to meet your needs. Send us an email at office@findleansolutions.com to begin your journey towards transformation. Now, back to the show. Yeah. Just a follow-up question on that. So, I would say there's probably a very large percentage of our listeners that are in the manufacturing space. So that would resonate and they would understand that. And, maybe we would look at, just to guide them, SQDC, safety quality delivery cost might be a good starting point, again, to just ask yourself from the customer standpoint, internal or external, from a safety standpoint, what's important to the customer, what's important to us, what's important to the customer from a quality standpoint, from a delivery, from a cost standpoint. So that's a good guide, obviously. But what about those that are not in manufacturing? Do you have any advice or thoughts? I just think about, there's people that are listening in that are working in the government space, state and local government. There's people that are listening in that are in higher ed or healthcare, construction. Where do they start? And how can digitalization and all of the advancements that have happened in AI and robotics and different things, how can those help us to identify the right KPIs no matter what industry we're in?
Sure. That's a great question. Again, I can probably come up with some stories about that. Right now, we are working with government on a project that is all about, it's in the social service sector. So probably that's our second project or engagement that we have that is not in manufacturing. So in that particular case, this particular organization, which is a nonprofit organization, is providing services to kids that have some foster care needs. So it's absolutely service, right? It's nothing in manufacturing. Just let's start with that example. So when we start talking about it, again, we said that who is the customer for that service, right? To start the conversation. And we said that the customer in that entire operation is the kids and the families for those kids, right? So when you think about it, what matters the most for that customer? A couple of things come to. We had that was a Kaizen event. We had a value stream mapping Kaizen event in that organization, and all these questions start coming up. So the team start talking about it. What matters the most is how long the kids are staying in the foster care system, right? So the time from the point that the kids are removed from, for whatever reason, until the point that they're back to the family. So when you think about it from that perspective, all right, the total cycle time in the system is a great KPI to start with. And when we did our value stream mapping, we realized that number could vary between different cases, could vary anything from 17 months to 27 months. And we said, hey, it is really, really long. We want to shrink that. Now we are going down deep into the value stream and identified not only the non-value added activities happening, resulting in lead time to grow, but also within the value added activities, what's happening inside those that we possibly can shrink using technologies like, hey, the information is just, the flow of information is really clunky. It's very manual. How can we use some technologies to just clean up the information and flow the information within the value stream faster? We came out with great ideas how to do that, and we'll implement some of those ideas, and we already got the results. So that's an example of service sector and technology can just, again, merge together to identify what is non-value added, what's wasteful in the value stream, and how we can improve that particular KPI related to that particular problem.
Love it. Great example.
So Hessam, one of the famous quotes that I learned very early about Taiichi Ohno was, he said, data is, of course, important in manufacturing, but I place greatest emphasis on the facts.
Mhm.
I'm really interested to hear a little bit, or maybe an example of how, when you're deploying some of this advanced technology, in particular AI, machine learning, the machine, in a way, even though it's designed by humans, is starting to learn and tell us things. What's some of the things that you look out for, or what's some of the approaches that where you go, hang on, we still need to, still have that person or that team validate what the machine's telling us? Can you give me a couple of insights into that? It's always something that fans of Terminator 2 always look at Skynet and go, like, how far is too far too soon, and those sorts of things. It's like, yeah, can you walk us through a couple of those things?
Sure. I love everything by example. So I just basically a couple of samples that, if I understood your question, Andy, I'll just some examples. If not, we can let me know. But so if you're talking about interaction of human with the machine, and then let the machine to understand what's happening and provide some ways to continue to improve a process. I have a good example for you. So previously, when you're talking about, let's talk about the quality improvement initiatives and activities, right? Just very briefly, what was the process in the past? Hey, we put some checklists. We have this checklist that the product goes through to the manufacturing process, or if it's a service environment, the information going through the value stream. And you have these quality at the source gates that you have different places, and they're doing the check against your standard, whatever the standard is defining. And if you have any non-conformity or any inconsistency between what's built, what's the standard saying, hey, you start collecting some data. The data could be, I see the problem at this point. This is what the issue is. This is what I'm measuring versus what has to be measured. So you're collecting this information, right? Previously, what's happening is now you have this giant Excel. If you're advanced enough, it's Excel. Otherwise, it's going to be just on a piece of paper that someone needs to just go ahead and manually enter it somewhere. But you have now this information, and what we're doing most likely is we are going, if we go through like some sort of the make approach, we'll look at it and say, hey, let's look at the Pareto of this and say, hey, this reason code is repeating the most for this time frame. Now let's go ahead and start doing some fishbone and some root cause analysis to identify what the cause is, and go ahead and after implementing some countermeasures, right? So now if you look at that in the context of the new world, how does that look like? Number one, we can make if we want to go really crazy on that, so we can use some vision technologies that's detecting the inconsistencies as opposed to the people doing it, right? In many automated lines, you can do it, but still we have a lot of manual manufacturing processes that's really difficult unless you give everybody an AR HoloLens headset that they look at things. It's not going to happen anytime soon. So, but what you can do is you can provide the users with a very simple platform to identify issues and just log it to the system, right? So this is what we're doing actually in one of our applications on the Optegrity. So we have these tablets that the users at different points in manufacturing processes, they're detecting issues and log it to the system. So what happens is now we have all these data, and the AI is looking at the data sets that we have and try to identify connections. And start providing some insights. And as the information is just growing within the system, within the data sets, they get trained better and better and better, and then they provide better solutions. And it's not necessarily solutions. They're telling you, hey, I see that every time that this is happening, or I see that 2, 5, 10, whatever, work center later, I see that this issue is happening as well. So we start getting some insights out of information in the system, and that's how AI can help us. Again, if you take that in the context of lean implementation, it's just helping you to get to the root cause of a problem faster, adopt waste elimination tools and techniques to improve the process to the next level. So was that what you were referring to? Okay.
Yeah, and how we can validate that with the team. So for example, in your example where you said, like, the data is actually being driven from the person where the work is happening. So that's yeah, it's not just something that it's just looking at patterns and algorithms in the background, and it's actually that there's still that manual interaction, still that activity
Absolutely.
for the worker to get going around, hey, this is and they're saying it's a problem, right? Or there's an issue. Yeah, I think what I like about some of the early AI that I'm seeing around the place is it's giving us those warnings and those insights before, you know, we hit our upper limits or
Right.
things like that, and then it's a problem. So I really find it powerful there. But yeah, there is always that bit of a risk around, I think, around how, you know, going too far too soon, and it's not being validated by the worker. That we still need, as I say, a robot can't give you a hug. Like you need to, it's collaborative robots and collaborative AI and tech instead of just how do we get rid of these people and what's that little machine over there that will do that for me? It's, yeah, thank you for providing that example. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great.
Definitely.
Yeah, it makes me also think about Andy, just engagement too, not just validation, but engagement of the operators with the data, right? And you know, obviously, you know, you mentioned Hessam about root cause analysis, but I also was just thinking way back. I was at a company. This was this. I think we were a little ahead of our time, to be honest. But we had the operators were complaining about, well, we were doing hour by hours, and then the data from the hour by hours was handing over to an engineer, and then they were complaining because they had, you know, these stacks of hour by hours, and they're manually entering this and manually generating these Paretos, and so the team kind of challenged themselves to like, how do we eliminate the manual time of sitting behind the computer and entering all this data in? And so I remember someone from IT came up with this idea of putting an hour by hour, they were doing part counters. So it was really easy to tie the hour by hour data to the part counters. And then at the top of every hour, it would just pull the data from the part counters and put a number on the hour by hour. The piece that we didn't want to miss, though, was the interaction of the team members with the tool. We didn't want them to just be running and not paying attention, or, you know, kind of fully removed from that. So anytime that let's just say for even numbers, they had to get 100 pieces in an hour. If they got 101 or 120 or 130, if they were over the goal, it would be green. And then if they were below the goal and they only got 80 or 60 or 70, it would actually make a noise and blink red until they typed in the reason why. Or we actually, again, maybe ahead of our time at this time, but we had created a barcode scanners with reason codes, and then we had them scan it, and it would automatically put the right reason code up into there. Then from there, they would upload all the information. IT would take that and spit out Paretos, and then we would do root cause analysis with the team members on that. So this was way back too, and this is all bringing memories back to me of when we were doing this. I still remember going to the red tag area, and I found an old fan stand and a flat screen computer screen that we just threw together with some nuts and bolts and put it out on the line so they could see it. But anyways, I digress. Going back to what we're talking about here, the interaction piece, right? So if you're talking to a potential client or somebody, let's just say our listeners who are out there and they're going, well, I don't have any, we're not using automation, we're not using robotics or AI or anything at this point. What would your advice be to them on how to get started, and how do we keep the engagement of the people with the data or the tools or whatever it might be?
Yeah. Well, I think that data and like some of the advanced technologies, I mean, let's just start with this. Even though a lot of organizations are not using the newer technologies, right? But at least a lot of organizations that we engage with, they're using some business management systems, right? And some sort of ERP system that they're using for different processes. Some sort of applications to track their quality defects, doing their CAPA root cause analysis. So the data exists in many cases. The question is, how comfortable or how confident are you with your data? Can you say that, hey, I have set of data, but my data is trustworthy? Is that something that I can take actions on it? So I would say that probably, again, back to what we just talked about a few minutes ago, start with what matters the most for the customers across the entire value stream, right? And sometimes when you talked about safety, I always, when I engage with our customers, I say that your customer for your family is your customer, right? You're providing something that they use. So you have to be safe in order to provide what your family needs. So safety is also a customer-driven KPI, a metric, but it's not an end user customer maybe directly, but your family is your customer in that extent. So I just wanted to put that out. But again, going back to what matters the most for the business from the customer's perspective. So when we start defining those, then we got to start thinking about when what information need to start tracking. Sometimes, if we just to start with, it could be, and I think there should be, a piece of paper and pen and paper, easy way for people to just track their information. As we progress through that model, then we can start using technologies, even though if it's not a robotic. But as you said, nowadays there are some end-on systems that just have the end-on system, and they have like 10 different buttons based on what reason code is. So as soon as something goes wrong, you push the button to say, hey, I have a problem. The red light goes off, and you say, hey, I have this problem because I have this maintenance issues, right? So the information is also, again, it's an interaction between the users and data, but we can use some simple, after we define what needs to be measured, after we define where and how we need to measure that and who needs to measure that, then when we advance in that process, then we can start bringing technology little by little to streamline and make those processes more user-friendly, especially from the analysis and decision-making part of it. Still, I think that there is a journey, a data journey that we need to go through, but at the end, everything that we're talking should be with that in mind, that we are improving our KPIs to our customers.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Lean Solutions Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe. This way you'll get updates as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please give us a review. Thank you so much.